Kiria Ismail is my name. I'm the president of the Young Democratic Union of Africa, and I'm also the president of the Uganda Young Democrats. We are really happy to host the Waidwa Conference in 2024 because this is a goal which we thought it would not be realized basing on what we had in Addis Ababa. We are so grateful that this time it has happened on what actually we have been praying for. As Ugandan team, or as the host of the Waidwa Conference 2024, we have tried actually to put a lot of energy as far as this conference is concerned, and I would like to thank my fellow members of the FDC and the Democratic Party for the good work they have tried to do. I want to thank the board as a whole to try to do whatever it has done. This has been a participatory organization. Each and every person had a responsibility as far as organizing this conference is concerned. I think as Waidwa, we just need actually to go away from the conferences. We need the conferences as well, but we also need actually to embark on activities which can involve our members of the party. We have actually proposed to our partners that currently we need now to start having some regional trainings of the regional blocks. For example, if we can have East Africa to train some young leaders in East Africa at a different country. We train West Africa at a different country. We train South Africa, so that we can continue engaging and training and empowering young people as far as center-right ideology is concerned. The problem we are having as young leaders is that actually we are now more knowledgeable compared to our seniors. And since now CAS, Waidwa, DUA, IYDU is preparing the young people to take over leadership, we need now to continue entrenching and also making the young people getting equipped with skills, leadership skills, so that they are able actually to take up the leadership from our seniors as far as democracy is concerned. On that note, this conference has been achieved in the theme of reflection of the current state of democracy in the current process of various African countries. And we think that actually it has been realized. We have actually had very much facilitators who have taken us through the insight and also taken us through the facilitation of the center-right ideology. We are just actually to urge my fellow members and the fellow participants that we should not only end on listening, but we should implement whatever we have come out with this conference. Secondly, we have a duty of popularizing Waidwa, because Waidwa is among us as the representatives, but at least we need now to create activities which are going to help us actually move all over Africa. We need to have the Twitter spaces, we need to have the trainings, we need to have so many engagements which are going to make us actually so much relevant on the African globe. I remain Kiria Ismail, the president of the Young Democratic Union of Africa.
The program and the agenda of today, there were some slight changes. As you were aware or might have seen that on day one, we were supposed to have a presentation from Honorable Peter McMahon from Ghana in the afternoon, which was going to speak to how center-right ideology can solve the current state of democracy in Africa. And unfortunately, due to time and having to squeeze multiple speakers towards the end of the day, we were not able to receive that presentation. But gracefully, Mr. Honorable McMahon agreed to postpone his presentation to today because we couldn't have it yesterday, because yesterday we spent the whole day outside the conference venue. There was also a presentation that was meant to be had in the morning yesterday before we went out. However, that presentation is going to be postponed. We will find time somewhere, perhaps after the conference, online session, a Zoom session of some sort. We will have that conversation and talk about that. And then, so that means today this morning we are going to kickstart with the presentation from Mr. Honorable McManu, and then thereafter we are going to then take some questions, some answers, some comments, and then thereafter we are going to take the Youth League report presentations. I hope everyone has sent or emailed their reports so that you don't present something that you have not shared with us. So if you have not done that, please kindly email them to the Young Dua email address. Sure everyone has that email address, right? The Young Dua email address, send it this morning, and so that by the time we present those reports, we have them on hand. If there's anything that needs to be projected, also we'll get an opportunity to download it for you and project it on the screen. Chances are not everyone is going to get an opportunity to present as well, so we might have to pick randomly who is going to present their country report. So please be ready as and when you get called up to come and present. And then after that, we're going to take a tea break. And then after the tea break, we'll come back and continue with the program to receive a presentation of the White Dwarf Strategic Plan and proposed activities from our Honorable President, Mr. Kira Ismail. And then after that, we will hear from Ms. Helen Sayuni, who will speak to the allocation of members to committees and explain what committees we have and why DUA and how do we become part of it. And then after that, we'll then get some closing remarks and close the conference. Part of the allocation of members to committees will also talk about certain logistical challenges that we also experience that we need to address, and so that we, in our next conference, we are well better prepared as people, also taking into account we have elections in our next conferences. So Mr. Mpatso, who's the elections chair, will also speak to the elections. Walid will speak to the constitution and what is our role and our duty in keeping with the constitution and our accountability to it. So that would be our line-up for today. I'm not sure if we are minutes. Does anyone have a quick ice break to get people to wake up? He carries so much wisdom, he carries so much knowledge that we as young people, I think Dr. Dix or one of our presenters spoke about it the other day, that we, as much as we are Gen Z and Gen Millennials and all of that, we want to do things our way, but it's also important that we learn from those who have gone before us, who have implemented certain strategies and techniques that have worked. And Mr. McManu is one of the resources that we draw from every now and again, over and over, because we believe that that which he carries, that which he has learned and implemented in the past, really has worked, and we have something to learn from as well. So Mr. Peter McManu is from Ghana, as mentioned. He is a politician and a businessman. He is from the New Patriotic Party, NPP, which is the current ruling party in Ghana. He has held the position of chairman of Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, and another position as head of ports and harbors, chairman of the NPP from 2010 to 2014, Minister of Trade for Trade and Industry from the year 2005 to 2009, Member of Parliament for Ano South from 1997 to 2009. His educational background is the University of Ghana with a Bachelor of Science in Administration. Also, he went to the University of Surrey to get a Master's of Business Administration. Wow. Do you see that Master's is, yeah. So let's be encouraged to pursue our education as well, because clearly, those who have gone before us have also amassed a lot of education and knowledge. Again, a businessman and entrepreneur. Politics is not a career, colleagues. You know, politics is not to make money and get rich. One has to have their own money. Politician and a statement. He has received various awards and honors. He has an honorary doctorate of laws from the University of Ghana, which he received in 2017, and he was also a former campaign manager for the NPP elections in 2017, which got them into power. Mr. McMahon is also a former chairman of the Democratic Union of Africa. Like we said, that he's not new to the Dua space, he's not new to White Dua, so he really has so much to share with us. Also a former vice chairman of the International Democratic Union, IDU. So colleagues, honorables, please help me welcome to the floor Honorable Mr. McMahon. Let's give him a round of applause.
Mr. President of White Dua, executives, delegates, all protocol observed. Mr. Biggs, I missed this presentation last Monday because there was a flight delay. Or is it rather, I was delayed from Nairobi to Kampala. And that is why we are having it today. But I'm happy that at the end of the day, we are able to talk to ourselves on the topic, how center-right ideology can solve the current state of democracy in Africa. So looking at the topic, the current state of democracy in Africa, I'd like us to look at it from three mixed perspectives. That the current state of democracy is a mixed one in Africa. We have the good ones, we have the not too good ones, and we have the bad ones. So we're going to discuss this and look at the way forward where the bad ones can at least move to the not too good ones, and the not too good ones can also move to the good ones. That is the way forward that I intend to look at the lecture. Who has that? So we'll look at the introduction and then look at what is center-right parties, the current standing, as I said, then center-right politics in Africa in the 21st century, and political success of center-right political parties in Africa, then the way forward, especially for youth development and the need to change the internal structures of parties, and the need for political parties in the center-right to stay politically relevant. Political parties are of critical importance to the development and democracy of every country. The achievement of sustainable development and meaningful democracy on the continent is largely dependent on the existence of well-functioning political parties. Political parties are crucial actors in bringing together varied interests, recruiting and sponsoring candidates, developing competing programs and policy proposals that provide the people, that is the voters, with a choice. Ideology is necessary in a political party, though it is not a necessary condition to define one. No human association can exist without an ideology. Ideally, ideological positions are usually stable. Otherwise, parties without defined and stable ideologies can be detrimental to representative democracy. Political parties are led by people who need an ideology to guide certain actions. Parties' ideologies and their implantation in societies are foundations of democracy. Political parties, through these ideologies, must be the driving force behind democratic development and social welfare for the benefit of all citizens and not just a few. This is exactly what center-right parties stand for. In more recent times, center-right parties have continued to focus on the importance of strong and independent institutions, but have also concentrated on social issues and the economy. Today, most center-right parties continue to advance policies and programs that are geared towards the well-being of citizens, whilst limiting government's involvement in economic activities by letting the private sector be the main drivers. What this means is that center-rights, we believe in the private sector as the drivers of the economy. We have two people here. The one on the left, the lady, popularly known as the Iron Lady. I believe many of you must have heard her name. Was Mrs. Margaret Thatcher, the former Prime Minister of Great Britain, the first woman Prime Minister of Great Britain. And he says, "Let me give you my vision. A man's right to work as he will to spend what he earns and to own a property, to have the state as servants and not as masters." And this is exactly what center-right is about. To have the state as servants and not as masters. And on the right is the New Patriotic Party's founder. And he also had this to his credit, that the party's policy is to liberate the energies of the people for the growth of a property-owning democracy in this land, with the right to life, freedom and justice as the principles on which the government and laws of the land should be dedicated in order specifically to enrich life, property, and liberty of each and every citizen. So this is the foundation of the New Patriotic Party of Ghana. But what are the values and principles of center-right parties? Responsibility. Each individual must be personally responsible. We are pro-enterprise. When we say we are pro-enterprise, it means we believe in the free market economy. We don't want to control prices. We want demand and supply, or the market, to drive the economy. We are for freedom, pro-freedom. We believe in choice, liberty, and free speech. We are also for pro-justice, for justice. We believe in the rule of law and justice. Equally, we are also for defense. The national security and safety and its defense, the national defense, is equally important and a value which center-right parties cherish. We are for democracy, patriotism, sovereignty, and localism, particularly local governments. We are principled. We believe in fairness, integrity, and respect. Fairness, integrity, and respect. We are also pro-opportunity. We believe that each and everyone must be given equal opportunity. We must be empowered. We must be educated, given equal opportunities to education, and social mobility. Above all, center-right parties are compassionate. We prioritize the vulnerable and social justice, and we are civic-minded. We are also forward-looking. We believe in gradual change, we believe in innovation, and we believe in technology, the fourth industrial estate. Center-right also favors capitalism and free enterprise, but we disagree with the forceful redistribution of property. You know, in some countries, and this has happened in my own country, Ghana, before, when the military took over power, they forcibly seized people's companies and properties and redistributed it. No, center-right, we don't want that. We don't believe in that. We believe that if a company, individual, or enterprise has faulted, it must go through the judiciary or the rule of law process. The private sector, we also believe, should be the main vehicle for economic activities and growth. So we regulate the private sector and we impose taxes to drive development and social welfare by providing public services as a safety net. We are responsive, transparent, and accountable to the people. And we promote free and fair election to safeguard democracy. Those of you from countries where democracy and elections are skewed, that falls under the not too good or not good countries in Africa where democracy cannot thrive. Because if we want democracy to thrive, there must be free, fair elections. And by so doing, we are able to safeguard democracy in Africa. And center-right parties believe in that. But what is the current standing? Let's look at a bit at history. After the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, military and authoritarian rule were gradually phased out by the reintroduction of multi-party democracy, especially in Africa. I mean, before the fall of Berlin Wall, we had countries like Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, all being ruled by either one-party dictatorship or military dictatorship. So it was the fall of Berlin Wall and the collapse of communism in Soviet Union that gave us the rule and ability to reintroduce multi-party democracy in Africa. So registered political parties, which then hitherto had been banned, have the duty and responsibility of sponsoring and presenting candidates to compete in constitutionally sanctioned elections. Political parties across Africa that are center-right began to slowly fight back to win elections. That is after the collapse of the Berlin Wall in 1989. Political parties re-emerged and slowly fought back to win elections. In Ghana, since the reintroduction of multi-party democracy in 1992, the NPP, a center-right political party, has arguably been the best known to manage the affairs of the country excellently. Post-independence and post-military rule, all programs and policies that move Ghana from the status of a highly indebted poor country to a middle-income status have been developed and implemented by the NPP. Despite some successes of the center-right on the continent, there have been a few setbacks. I think I've spoken about that there are three categories. So there are some setbacks. Most military regimes transitioning into multi-party democracy amended their constitutions that made them stay in power beyond term limits. And this has been a source of worry to pro-democracy. Since 2020, there have been 9 successful and 7 failed coups in West and Central Africa, Gabon, Niger, Burkina Faso, Sudan, Chad, and Mali have all undergone through some form of failed coup and some successful. Some countries have been let down by those in socialism or the left-wing political structure. Venezuela, let me go further beyond Africa. Venezuela, a country that produced at peak an amount of 3.7 million barrels of oil per day in 1998, currently cannot meet the margin and are producing as low as 700,000 barrels per day, from 3.7 million to 700,000 barrels per day. This is nowhere near the level required to fund the imports the country needs to survive. The country is currently suffering from abject poverty, sickness, high incidence of crime, shortage of essential commodities because the socialist government of President Nicolas Maduro, the citizens are exhausted and hopeless. So if you compare center right to socialist and communist countries, you could see that many of the socialist countries are falling apart. Guinea's military junta dissolved government and seals the borders. Niger's soldiers claim power after president's own guard reportedly seized power. These are examples of countries in Africa that have gone from democracy to military seizing power. Guinea courts recently, I think about last week or so, sentences media regulators to prison over junta bribery claim. You see, and in these countries, you barely have the freedom and separation of powers as center-right parties want. The juntas, the military juntas, only will sentence people who criticize them. And Mali also last week jailed 10 people for what's the crime of the people? They were calling for return to civilian rule or return to democracy. So the military junta has jailed 10 opponents of the ruling military junta, including leading opposition politicians, for demanding a return to civilian rule. And their lawyers told the AFP last Monday that the 10, who include heads of political parties and groups who signed a March declaration urging the restoration of democracy, are accused of illegal gathering. So the citizens are not free when the military take over, and center-right parties abhor these kind of practices. In Africa again, Somalia for more than 20 years has been engaged in unending conflict. The country has been torn apart, making it highly unstable and dangerous, and has been described as a failed state. Sudan, led by Field Marshal Omar Hassan Ahmed al-Bashir from 1989 to 2019. Al-Bashir was the president before the coup d'etat that deposed him in 2019 were in tatters. The breakaway South Sudan are also in great conflict. To ensure the prosperity and growth of the entire government, center-right political parties must abhor and rightly condemn such unlawful practices. In fact, at the IDU level, International Democratic level, Union level, we have been issuing press releases to condemn these acts of the military taking power by force and sentencing people to prisons at their own whims and caprices. There are lessons that we have to learn from YDUA members and protect the gains of center-right, the gains of freedom, the gains of peace, the gains of justice, the gains of accountability. These gains must not be underestimated, and WIDOA members must strive to sustain these principles. There is, however, more room for improvement, though. We collectively need to ensure that gradually the continent is dominated and shaped by center-right politics, and we need to work hard to achieve that. Recently, there have been multi-party democracy elections in Africa. These are Kenya, Botswana, Nigeria, Liberia, Senegal, and most recently, South Africa. Ghana is preparing to hold elections this year with the New Patriotic Party seeking a third successive terms, which has never happened in our Fourth Republic. We need your support as a young doer. Where is the Ghanaian delegation? You have to count on the support of your colleagues to help us break the eight. Political successes of center-right political parties in Africa. President Boakai, Liberia, the Unity Party, which is a member of WIDOA, are they here? Yeah. Liberia was sworn in as a new Liberia president after a victory over incumbent President Weah. So there are success stories. Then in Senegal, the opposition was elected with a win of over 54% over the incumbent president. This is the stories that Africa needs. And this is the story that center-right cherishes. And in Botswana, the ruling party, the BDP, which is a center-right party, also won the elections. And South Africa's Inkatha Freedom Party is now on board the coalition formed by the ANC to be part of government. So these are some of the achievements of democracy and elections in Africa recently. And we must pride ourselves of changing governments through the ballot box rather than the can. The way forward. The youth of WIDOA, you are considered the future leaders of your respective parties. Hence, policies that promote youth development must be prioritized. The National Youth Wing of various political parties should be mainly responsible for the promotion of policies and programs that will inure to the benefit of the youth. Generally, one of the biggest challenges of the youth is unemployment and the abuse of social media. Hence, steps must be taken to engage the youth at that level. In Ghana, for instance, with the unemployment, the MPP government has taken steps to mitigate the situation. The introduction of the National Builders Corps has mitigated the challenge to a large extent. Other avenues, such as technical and vocational training, TVET, National Entrepreneurial Innovation Program, NAIP, and the various models of Youth Employment Agency and National Youth Authority are yielding positive results in the area of youth employment. And when we say youth employment, the youth are also able to create their own entrepreneurial jobs. That is, jobs that they themselves have fashioned. And then the various state institutions like NEAIP will give them the appropriate support. That's what we are doing in Ghana to mitigate the unemployment of the youth. Political parties must take interest in the youth at the tertiary level. The parties must engage students who are members of their party in educating them on the values and ideological positions of the center-right politics. In Ghana, the MPP has far advanced with the setting up of an MPP School of Ideology to train, educate, and indoctrinate the youth of the party on what it means to subscribe to center-right politics. The youth must be given opportunities to contest for executive positions and parliamentary primaries.
he must also be given a chance to be part of government once the party is in power. Such actions have a long-run positive effects as undecided youth and youth of other political parties find the party attractive to join.